Hello Self, Cosmos, Ohana, Soul Dr. Nick here. It is Saturday, November 29th at around 6:15 a.m. This is sunrise time, even before sunrise, I believe. I think this is the golden or the blue hour. And right here along the eastern side of Kona or Big Island, I'm not going to look at the screen that much because that way I can look at the sunrise and the sky and the horizon. Crashing waves in front of me. Yeah, just a beautiful landscape. I forgot to bring my microphone, so the background noise may be quite intense with all these crashing waves, and that's okay. This is for me, by me, through me, as me. Getting grounded, feeling the magma, being re-energized, recognizing that as much as I know this is healthy and the recalibration's happening, it doesn't mean that it's the same as taking a pill or a drug or having a surgery where the results are exactly the way I think it's supposed to be. And that was the reflection I had from talking with some loved ones recently, because they're like, well, we've done the right things, haven't we? And it's like, yes, and that's not what I see is the reward of the universe. Like, changing the external just doesn't just change the internal. It makes the environment more possible for the internal shift to happen. And then for me this morning, it's like, okay, what do I want to do? Do I want to get up here and see the sunrise and see if it's worthwhile? It's like, I was going to wait till a few days later. I thought, why wait? Why not find out now if this is something that I want to make a daily practice, and then how to make it a better daily practice? Because I already know the old daily practice. I did one round of the enema. I was like, I can finish all this, but I know how it's going to go already. Why not try something new? We've already flushed out some of the gunk. Let's take a look now at what might happen if I spend an hour down here before I go back to finish things off and see what's next. And then getting things ready today, the playlist for a breath session. And then I've got another breath session tomorrow for the Ohana breath and freedom, and being with that internal and external freedom, being with the idea of sovereignty, being with what's going to come up next year, being with free of one system and another system, being free of freedom of assembly, freedom of movement, freedom of transaction. All these existential threats, these digital threats that we don't even realize are there until something is taken away, until it affects me. Because so often I'll be like, well, it affects that person. There must be a reason. And there is a reason, usually. It just may not be the reasons I thought they were. Altruism, fairness, equality. Great, lofty ideas. And then got a beautiful message from my friend Brent about a friend with ALS, and I cannot wait to take a look at creating a breath session there and what's possible. And then we'll make a message for my dear friend Kevin about, hey, we found some sunshine now. Things are different. It doesn't happen right away. It doesn't happen right away that everything changes, and that's important to remember. Really important to remember. Find the place that works. Find the space that works. Find the living that works. Find the life that works. And then let it go. And then having some deep dish homemade pizza yesterday with some dear friends who were asking me about my leaving Western medicine, who didn't understand, haven't been following my process. And so I had to explain, yeah, I've left it, why I left it, what it entails, what I do remember, what I still have, what I don't have. I never had, College of Physicians and Surgeons fully licensed. I'm not trying to keep any of that stuff up. I'm not trying to be that, and yet I can notice there's sometimes I want to be able to give people the comfort. I've got those skills still. I don't have the full set of skills. What I do have is the having learned that way, now taking a look, because I'm looking at pregnancy, birth, all of these things differently, and having these chats with people who are getting pregnant, having trouble getting pregnant, contemplating their birth plans, contemplating their pregnancy plans, contemplating child raising, contemplating education, and recognizing I don't have the answers and I don't have the truth. What I do have is I've been planting lots and lots of seeds for myself, looking at it differently, being willing to try something different without knowing if it's going to go right or going to go wrong. Recognizing and remembering, having gratitude for the shifts. 3 years ago, 4 years ago especially, me waking up and seeing sunrise like this would be unfathomable. Unfucking fathomable. I could sleep until 3 p.m. then. 3 years ago, I started to wake up and not realizing why. Waking up and not realizing why. Part of it probably was being in that RV, being so close. Like, I'm gonna wake up. I can't just stay inside and sit there. I could stay on my phone the whole time. And now, waking up, I'm like, all right, what do I want to do? How do I want to experience the morning? What are the gifts that I want to see this morning? And remembering that as I do this, it lays a different foundation. And I think that's a piece. It's just like laying the foundation for a building. Sometimes I don't get to have the sweet, sexy feeling of I get to party in this, but I can feel the groundingness of my life. And as I do the routines and the regularity, what's possible. As I do it for myself and repattern what's possible. And that's the thing. I was talking to someone about childbirth in Canada. And I'll just say my opinion, my perspective doesn't make it true. They're like, oh yeah, they really promote natural childbirth. They promote this home childbirth. It's like, actually no, we've just been shifting a little bit, molding a little bit to what we feel like are the current demands. But if I actually take a look at the number of C-sections that are happening, the number of admissions that are happening, the number of interventions that are happening, it's anything but natural. We may have these ideas of birth plans and everything else, but how many of them actually go according to plan? And then what is the reasoning behind that? There's so many things. One of the biggest, I think, is the patterning that's happened over the last few decades, that we think that there's a hierarchy of safety first, on top of all things, taking away the comfort of people who are actually comfortable with the process, with delivering a different way, and instilling such a fear that we all have that. And looking at the divine imperfection, I'm so grateful for everything that happened for my own child, for the child of those that I love, where things have turned out the way they have. And in a future session, I would like to have different possibilities and explore them. And the biggest thing to remember is, what is my comfort, what is their comfort? Everyone's going to have a different choice. And isn't it amazing we get to have a choice? And even as I say that, it's funny because sometimes we think we have a choice, but we don't even realize it's there. I'm grateful I've had the languaging, I've had the training, so I can actually ask or request for what I need. But it doesn't mean that I always get it either. It doesn't mean that is the way it's supposed to go. But how do I set it up? Would I have a child in Hawaii? Almost certainly. Would I need to learn more about this system and back home? Almost certainly. Would I need to actually chat with many locals to hear more and more of my comfort and recognize as I make choices to not have to feel like I have to keep optimizing all the time? I think that's part of the lie too, that I've got to keep researching, optimizing, instead of saying, it's like getting the car. Oh, this is the car. First one, let's just get it, right? And how do I actually optimize? What do I want to do? I would ask lots of people. I would call, I would interview, I would ask the tougher questions up front now. I didn't even know to do that before. I would ask to make sure that I've got allies that are on my side that actually have the same values, the same desires. All right, let's see where your comfort level is with home birth. How are you doing with meconium? How are you doing with rupture membranes? How are you doing with breech? How are you doing with shifting? How are you doing with blood work? How are you doing with shots? How are you doing with all these interventions? How are you doing knowing that it is a VBAC, vaginal birth after cesarean, and knowing that it's okay if I choose to go in that other environment? I may have to deal with some stuff there to clear up the trauma of birth, if we want to call it that, and it's just the story. Right now, this is the birth of a new day. This is the birth of a new sunrise. I get to be with the color changes. I get to be with the waves. I get to be with the ions. I get to stand on the magnetic lava flow earth. And I get to calibrate and recalibrate. My body is probably recalibrating really quickly. It's probably uncomfortable to do it this way. And it's such a reminder that there's a discomfort in actually being in a healing, holistic environment. Whether it's shifting diet to be more aligned, because there's the craving for toxins sometimes. There's the craving for familiarity. There's the craving for the self-punishment. And I really appreciate talking to a friend yesterday. They were like, I was in Hong Kong, my nervous system wasn't handling it well, whether it's the number of people, whether it's the EMF, whether it's the light, whether it's the city. I was like, thank you for hearing yourself, and let's chat some more. What does your body actually need and want at this time? It's going to be really more crucial. What does my own body want? How do I interact? How do I support? How do I love? How do I keep looking at the internal freedom, the awareness? I'm listening to Anthony DeMello, Awareness. Thank you, Tim Ferriss, for the recommendation. And again, I'm looking inwards. I'm looking at awareness. I'm looking at how do I present myself. Even this, there's that awareness that I'm capturing my own voice, my own thoughts, this old form of telepathy, but I'm doing this because I'm practicing the old forms to remember myself, to hear myself, to eventually see myself, to have this be part of the communication method. And then also taking a look at Bitcoin, taking a look at EMF, taking a look at sunlight, taking a look at recalibrating, reformatting the system. Even looking at things like I'm loving watching some of the NFL football and listening to the stories and the thread lines and storylines. Even looking at ordering some things. There's retail therapy, there's shopping. So there's all these different layers that are happening at once. And how do I get, quote unquote, the best of the things that I want to make life better and easier? Gonna get that little combination of stand, of keyboard, of mouse to see what that's like. Going to notice how much I need on the credit cards and everything else. Notice the banking system changing, noticing the emails I need to send out. There's so many things on the to-do list of life. It's never ending. And it's funny, as I was walking out here this morning, I noticed, I was like, are those mountains in the distance? They're just the clouds on the horizon. We can actually see the full horizon here and just a few low-lying trees. So different than back home with all the mountains that are nearby that are blocking us in. It's been raining almost every night overnight, and then during the daytime being sunny. So gorgeous, and a high of like 30 degrees, a low of like 20 degrees at this elevation, sea level. When we go up to the top, it's almost 2 degrees at night. It's so cold. So we can have that opportunity if we want to. Eating so much papaya, passion fruit, pomelo, avocado yesterday, rambutan, having a steak almost every morning, getting some great meat into the body, meeting up some people who are plant-based, vegetarian, vegan, and noticing that's not how I want to live right now. And noticing we see lots of wild chickens here. How do we start hunting for our meat so that we can actually see how we connect with it? And I really appreciate my loved ones nearby who are willing to explore some of these things, who are willing to chat about some of these things, who are willing to chat with me about my crazy ideas on urine therapy, enemas, things like that, who are talking about moon masks, who are talking about breast milk and blood. I don't know the answer, but how do we reclaim this personalized medicine that we have that's tailored to each one of us, that is natural, that's available, that's freely accessible, that over and over we can see the patterning of that sounds gross, rather than some of these foods, some of these medications that we put in our body, the processes, if we knew the processes of extracting it. It sounds ridiculous. Some of these oils that we have to extract out of plants, extract out of animals. How many animals had to give their life for these certain oils? Oh, you can just drink breast milk that comes right from the breast. Oh, you can just drink urine. Oh, you can just play with, even drink moon blood. Oh, wow. How men can have the hormonal cycles as well. It may not be in the same way. Maybe it's more energetic. Maybe it's not just hormones. Hormones are the secondary layer of effects. What if there are the periods where you don't actually have the PMS, the painfulness? I can't even remember what it was. And it's, again, chat with my beloved. She has more direct felt experiences on these things. Talking to people about how childbirth can be different, how we can pattern differently, how we can pattern differently the discomfort, the pain. And that's part of it. We've been so used to comfort. And then the idea that, oh, if I have too much comfort, then I'm going to get too used to it. Rather than every comfort is a practice. How am I being with this? Right now, this morning, waking up early, getting out of the house, being with the discomfort. And then honoring my beloved with her ability to be with the discomfort of being around the waves. Thank you. And before it'd be judging her for not being able to stay longer. But if I was in that level of discomfort, how long would I have chosen to stay? And how often she is supportive of me now stepping into a place where she would be uncomfortable, and how I'm supportive of places where she'd be uncomfortable. One of the things for me is receiving needles, and I was mentioning that I did a therapy where I had to receive like almost 10 different IV pokes. My blood vessels are breaking more easily, and that's something for me to take a look at what's going on there. What may be possible there? What forms of Ayurvedic medicine might I look at to say, how am I co-creating this? What can I do to help shift this up? What can I do to shift up the strength and the energy that's inside my body? And then today I'll be working with some people who are going through an apprentice with a dear friend. And how do I help guide them into the school of unlearning, the school of intention, the school of preference, the school of awareness, the school of health, the school of breath, the school of the breath being the anchor and the guide. Isn't it amazing you can have both this, an anchor and a guide? It can serve multiple purposes. It can be a paradox because an anchor and a guide seem to be paradoxical, and it isn't. And right now I'm seeing some of the sun cresting over some of the clouds and seeing that little almost fire at the edge of the clouds. I love that view. Love that view. Because the sun's just coming up over there, burning through some of the clouds. Got it. And being with this magical time, watching some of the kids play and interact, watching how clever these little, I'm going to call it this way, psychopaths are. As they learn how to apologize, one of them will provoke another and then be like, okay, now I can apologize, just practicing the cycles. But in one another way, looking at us as adults, that's almost psychopathic. You're literally poking in order to be also the rescuer. And that's the thing, victim and rescuer at the same time. We're just playing out that cycle. And someone has to be in that mode of victim mode. Oh, I need an external adult to help me resolve this for this cycle to continue. Otherwise, it's just between the two of you. And it's never just between the two of us. We're all interconnected. And then watch the other ones who don't get provoked the same way, won't put up with it. The little one doesn't provoke because she's like, I don't want to deal with this now. It's not the same response. Wow, some of these waves are really crashing a little bit closer, and just really just watching them. And then we were able to get a coconut at our tree yesterday, and just the thrill of it. And the phrase that came out was, what was something? Did you get your coconut? Did you get your wish? And the little man was like, coconut dreams do come true. Coconut dreams do come true. And just how clever, how cute that is. How brilliant that is. And the reminder that dreams come true. This sitting here, sunrise in Hawaii at this time, having this level of freedom, not having to work a regular job, building business, having community, having friends, eating amazing food, having family, having a beloved, having this level of health, being able to witness. And the brain wants to compare to other people's health, but rather the more clever way of looking at it is just to witness and remember and have gratitude for the level of health that I do have. Because sometimes it's easy to say, oh my God, my body's falling apart. Oh, I can't feel this, I can't feel that. Just think if I can still see a star, I cannot anymore. And then forgetting how great my body feels relative to the places where it's challenging. And then noticing, what am I willing to continue to step into for the body that I'm willing to have, wanting to have, preferring to have. And how am I doing that? I'm doing different exercises by holding up my son, using him as the best weight possible, where he's enjoying being thrown around. I can imagine I'm like a roller coaster ride for him right now. The best kind, one who's tuned into him, who will play with him, who will respond with him, one that he can actually control more. Is more predictable and unpredictable at the same time. Saw a beautiful orange little frog yesterday. They're making so much beautiful noise. It's a reminder we don't have to sleep in silence. And what is it like to sleep with nature rather than with the man-made trains, planes, automobiles that we have been accustomed to, my beloved eye. And what a beautiful thing it is to see with wide open windows. So there's a lot of benefits that I'm liking here that I want to set as a baseline, and I really want to be here for a few months, I think, to reset the baseline of what is, what we want, what is desirable. And then secondarily, what next? What kind of alternative, what additional homes are we going to create? And then taking a look then at how do I create life in this way? How do I recreate life in this way? And then taking a look at our own health. How am I living without as much supplementation as well? The idea of supplements, I'm recognizing it more and more now. Every morning we're having papaya seeds, allowing that to be anti-parasitic. Amazing. I plan to do that almost every morning. So grateful for the people that were giving away papayas. So grateful for the lemons that we've had that are fresh. So grateful for the tuna. I don't know if the tuna has a bunch of mercury, but I'm willing to try it and eat more and see what happens. If I get a little mercury poisoning, I get a little mercury poisoning. Hearing about different people and their health recently. All right, there's some sun peeking through. I'm going to take a picture. Ciao for now.